Hi, I'm Tash from Heart and Design. Here on my channel, I hope to provide a safe space for everyone to learn art no matter what stage you're at. I appreciate you for clicking through so much and welcome to the Heart Tribe. Please subscribe, like, comment or share if you haven't already. Today we are going to watercolour this bumblebee image. If you would like to know how to draw this so that you can join in a drawing tutorial, it's available on my website with the link below. There are also all other video tutorials in other mediums such as acrylic, coloured pencil and pastels. So there is something for everyone. My website is heart with no E and design.org.uk. Head to the section called Chameleon and you can sign up there. So let's get on with the fun bit, things you'll need. First of all, you need to have drawn out your bumblebee on some watercolour paper. You also need, I like to have a spare piece of watercolour paper just so that it's handy if I want to test out a colour before I put it down and see if that's what I want. Obviously, to draw the image initially, you'll need a rubber, and I like to have a kneadable eraser, and I'll show you why in a minute. You'll need a jar of any kind with some water in, and brushes. So just whatever you have. You can have straight edges, you can have the round brushes as well, and I think you can sometimes have these long liner brushes and then tiny detail brushes, and I'm trying to find my detail brush. Oh, there it is, like this one. You can hardly even see it, it's so tiny. Okay, right, so any brush will whatever brush you have will help, but if it is a watercolor one, it will work better. Now you can have watercolor pencils which you color in like a pencil and then you wet, and then that will look like watercolors. So there's that option, which I might show you in a minute as well. Or there is the option of having tubes or pans of watercolor blocks. So I like to have the pans. It's just my preference, no particular reason why. And it'd be a really good idea to have some kind of a tray for mixing your colours. I'll put that there actually, so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, I think, is get my kneadable eraser. As I said before, just squidge up one end. It's quite a new one, so I'm going to squidge it up. And then because watercolours are quite transparent, you don't want the pencil to show too much. So with a kneadable eraser, unlike the normal rubbers, it does tend to lift. You can do the lifting like that or just gently rub, and I find that if I gently rub, it picks up a bit more, but it doesn't take the whole thing. So you can still see where you're going. You'll still be able to see what I'm doing on camera, just about, but you just don't want to have it too thick showing through the paint. You want the paint to do the work. Now there is a way of also drawing it again after you've painted with liner, and I do sometimes like to do that if I want to make my piece pop. Okay, so there, he has been pushed to the background, so he's not too strong. That bit's a bit strong. I can see on the camera, actually, when I look at the camera, I can see better what's still popping out a bit too strong and go back. Okay, I think we're okay. Maybe his smile. We'll come back with that at the end and draw that in. Okay, so the first colour I'm going to go for is the lighter colour. So we'll go for the wings. Sometimes I put water down on the wings first, and sometimes I just get the colour and paint. Now I'm going for quite a big brush here. Let's have a look. I'm going to try it. I think it might be too big. Let's try this one. That's better. Right, so I'm going to wet it. I'm going to pop it in the water and wet it. I'll just collect some of that water as well. Make a little puddle so that when I add the paint, I've already got some water there. And we're going to go for a nice pale blue. And I'm very lucky. I already have a really nice pale blue in my block. So I'm just picking up some of the paint off the block and popping it in the water until I think I've got the right colour and consistency. Now the more water you've added, the more watery it will be. So that's nice and pale. Now, because what you can do once you've put it down and it's pale, you can always build it up. But with watercolours, once you've put those layers on and it's dark, Once it's dried, that's it. There's no correcting it, unlike acrylic, which you can just paint over. So I'm just going to go in and put the paint on the wings. Here we go. So this is just a little activity to get you started. It's something you can pop in your sketchbook, your art book. It's something you could do to put on the front of a card. Whatever you want. You can use it in your crafting if you do lots of crafting, paper crafting. I'm sure you can come up with lots of ideas. Now that was quite watery. Now I can see a little pool of water there, so I'm just going to smudge it out a bit. I don't want anything to pool. And then we'll let that dry for a little bit. We might come back to that. Oh, nearly put it in my tea. Don't want to be doing that. That's an artist's biggest mistake, isn't it? I'm going to have a sip. So don't put your watercolor brush in your cup of tea or coffee, okay? Now something else that's really handy to have that I haven't mentioned is just to have a rag nearby. I've got old tea towels that I've printed that were misprints, so I use those. Okay, so I've dried my brush off a bit more. There's still a bit of water on it, and now I know it's clean. We don't want to muddy colours, and we don't want to have I don't want to have any other colour in the way. So now we're going to go on to the yellow. Let's see, I've got a really nice kind of, not like a bright yellow or an orangey yellow, just like wow, bumblebee yellow, I suppose. So I'm just mixing some of that. I'm adding a bit more water. Just going to thin it down a bit, as you can see. Put that there. Now I'm going to practice again just to see. Oh yeah, that is a perfect yellow. It's just what I was looking for. Sometimes I might mix colours in if I feel like I can't find the right colour, but I had the perfect yellow. I'm going to say with the same big brush because it's doing the job nicely. And with watercolours, it's good just to be quite loose anyway. So then I'm going to do, like on there, I will do the top first layer in the yellow. If you find you want to get a smaller brush to get into the corners, that's fine. But I'm okay with this myself. I'm going to add a little bit more water. It's quite thick with pigment. There we go. So just going down the stripes, filling in. Just a nice flat colour, and then we'll go in and maybe make some changes with the colour when we're done. Okay, and again. Now you can see the blue has started to dry on the wings, which is great because whilst the yellow is drying, before I go in with the black on our bumblebee, I can go back and work on the wings a bit more and give them a bit of 3D-ness, give them some layer. So just wash my brush off, dry it off on the towel. That should leave me relatively clean. Still quite a bit of yellow. Let's go. There we are. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to go back into my blue. So grab a bit more water on my brush, not too much. Don't want to thin the mixture any more than it is. I'm just going to grab a bit more of that blue. Get some more pigment in the mixture. Okay, so pop that there. And just going to bring that in for the other camera. I have an upright camera as well. Okay, so now I'm just going to come back around and just add a little bit of extra dimension, really. Let the paint just go where it wants to. So I'm going to come round and here. But the joy of watercolour with watercolour pictures is that we expect it to be a little bit more free, more abstract. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be perfect. I mean, at the end of the day, this is not a bee. A real bee, is it? It's just a little drawing of a bee, and it's not meant to be. Do you know what we forgot? I missed out the tail bit. before we got to the black. Pop that in quickly. Now what you can see is where I've put the blue, it is mixing in with that yellow there, because I didn't let it dry first, and I wasn't intending to get that close, but I have, so I would suggest leaving it to dry if you're worried about getting that in there. We can go over it with the yellow in a bit, it's not a problem. I just won't water the paint, I'll make sure it's nice and thick. So what I'm going to do now is dry the whole thing. You can use a hairdryer, I've got like a heat gun thing, so I'm going to use that. Lovely, it's nice and dry now. Don't want to dry it too long because you can end up kind of scorching the paper. So what I'm going to do is go direct in that yellow and just kind of repair. If you just go direct into the paint, and that's actually given it a bit of a nice dimension. It's a bit darker there. Maybe I'll go around all the edges like I am, and just get some darker colour lifted in. I like that. It gives it a bit more dimension, a bit more 3D-ness. There we are. As you can see, it has changed it quite a bit. So I'm now dipping into a slightly darker, just to give him also, or her, give him or her, a bit of 3D-ness in the face as well. Okay. So we really are getting there now. Now what I'm going to do is similar with the blue. I'm just going to go straight in with the colour. Get lots of pigment up. I'm not too worried about water. I'm not going to change my brush because watercolour, my round brushes have quite good points on them. So I just want to come in with a little bit of dark here and there. Okay. Yep. And we'll just, it helps to have that difference in value just to bring some dimension in. There we go. And try and spread it in a bit if you can. Blend it in a little bit is what I mean, not spread. Yeah, you don't want anything too patchy. So go in with some water and that will help to blend in those stark edges of paint colour. There we are. Lots of fun. Okay. And so again, it's gone green because I am so impatient. So that's dry now. So I am going to go back in with that yellow, but it's okay because it does, like I said on this one as well, with it being dark on the edges, it just makes it look a bit more 3D. Okay, so now we need to go in with the black, which will really help to make it pop now. So let's pick some black up over here. I know you can't see that, but I'm literally just getting water on my brush, rubbing it on the paint block, and then getting it in here. And now I'm just going to add a big puddle of water to water it down. Now I do want the black to be quite black on this to stand out, so I'm going to make sure there's enough pigment on there, and then we're going to go in. So here we are, just doing the body of the bee. Now it's quite light to start with, which is fine, because if we want to darken it, we can. Black is such a potent, strong colour against everything else. It's best not to go in with too much pigment, water it down a little bit. So then we're getting there. There we are. There we are. Now I quite like it where there's some deeper, darker bits and some lighter bits, so we'll just leave it like that. What we mustn't forget is the tip. There we go. So now something else you do need that I didn't actually mention at the beginning, sorry about that, we need to have a liner pen. Let me just get the right thickness. This is a 03 liner pen, so when you look at the end it tells you what number it is. I don't know if you can see that. It's not very good at adjusting. It says 03 anyway. So it's still drying in some places, so while that's drying I'm going to go to the areas that are just pencil. Okay, so that's one of the antennas done, and I'm going to go over the pencil here, and this helps with bringing out your details and making it come to life. Let's give him a nice happy face and his little eyes. Okay, he looks cute. We could give him some little bits of hair as well. Should we just go like that? Tiny little bit of hair. We'll do a couple of those. Bless him. Right, and then are the wings dry? The black isn't dry. Let's just quickly dry the black. Oh, where's the button? Where's the button? There we go. Okay, so we're now going to go in and do the lines that we had made inside the wings. Here we go. And then one here as well. Now what I am going to do, you don't have to, is that you could go leave the edges of everything, but I'm actually going to go around all the edges as well. And I'm also going to do my dotty lines of the trail of the bumblebee in the pen so it stands out. Now you could do this with a really fine brush using your paints, but I would say that it's quite tricky to get it without it smudging because it is watercolour. Even if you don't use much water and you just use the pigment, you could use watercolour pencils, but then don't activate it with the water, just leave it as pencil. If you have a mixture of mediums, it is nice to mix them in and have a go at different things and see what happens. So now I'm just going around the body. Now I recommend when you're doing the outline, move the paper around so that it's, oh, got some yellow on me then, so that it feels comfortable to you. Trying to move your hand in a direction that doesn't feel comfortable will only result in a mistake. So move it round. So I'm going to go around that way, and then I'm going to move it around there so I can go around that way again on the other side without making too much of a mistake. There he is. Now it's time for the wings, so I'm going to go around that way as far as I can until it gets a bit uncomfortable, and then go around again. Okay. You move it however you want to move it. So that's our bumblebee nearly done. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, please, if you're watching this, like, subscribe, comment, anything you can to help my channel grow. It's 2022. If you're watching it now, I'm a very new channel. I do hope to bring art lessons to more and more of you over the time, so you might be watching it a bit later. Now what I have done there, where I've drawn that line, I can see that the paint hasn't quite gone to where I want it, so I'm just going to get a little bit more of what I had, and I'm just going to fill that in a little bit. Yeah, the joy of paint. You can make changes, it's not a problem. And then we'll give it a dry, and then we should be done. I hope you enjoyed that. Now, are other ways you can go into your paintwork and embellish it. Okay, so you could use glitter. Let me see what I've got in my drawer here. You could use gems. I love to stick gems on things just for fun. I mean, why not, yeah? If you've got them, use them. Things like this. So should we give him or her some little sparkles at the end of their antennae? What about that? I mean, that's fun, isn't it? Yeah, you realise I am 46. But hey, there we are. It just goes to show that it doesn't matter what age you are, we all enjoy what we enjoy, and it gets us back to our inner child. We need to play. It's so important just to be joyful. Let's get some... I'm trying to see if I've got any sort of plain silvery coloured ones, but I suppose they're the ones I've used a lot of. What I do have is these little glitter pots, which are really lovely if you're sprinkling lots on. I'm not going to do that. And then we've got these gems. They are quite big in size, but I was thinking we could put them on the wings. Where did it go? It's disappeared. There was a gem there. Hang on. Yeah. You might want to do that, you might not. Depends on what stuff you have. But this is why I say you can add it to your crafting mix. Use the design, change it, adapt it how you want, add things, take things away. That's the joy of arting and crafting. So I think he's done. Definitely. There is something else you can do, which is splashes. I love to do splashes, so I'll do over here. I'll show you what I do. So we get it in the water, we make sure your brush is loaded and quite watery. You don't want any big blobs, but you don't want them to be small either. Then you need another brush, just like to put underneath like that. Just tap gently and then you'll see some splashes. So we'll do that. Yeah, I like a bit of splashes. So there's a bit of yellow. Let's do a little bit of blue of what's left. There's not much there, but there we go. Some down the bottom. Yeah, that looks nice, doesn't it? Okay, I'm just going to wipe that away because this is my undersheet for all the other tutorials I've got to do today. Okay, so there we are, all finished. Hope you enjoyed it. Keep playing with it, keep seeing what you can come up with. Do another one, maybe try different colours. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. See you again in the next video. Check out the links below.